Entheogen? Anyone? Anyone? Yeah, okay, you know. Okay, so an entheogen is a plant psychedelic that the word entheogen stems from the Greek word entheogenes or something like that, which means to connect with the divine within. So an entheogen is anything that induces a spiritual experience where you're connecting with some kind of divine energy. And things that fall under entheogens are ayahuasca, peyote, San Pedro, anything with DMT in it, and of course, mushrooms. Mescaline, yeah, San Pedro. But yeah, so those are entheogens. That's our platform. We're not really tackling cannabis reform or anything. It's just entheogens. And the reason we're focused on entheogens is because in our Constitution, it says we have the freedom of religion. And through our research and studying history, and now there's anthropological evidence, all of our ancestors used these entheogens to gain a greater cosmic understanding. So now that we have that information, we're coming back to educate the community about this history and then convince politicians that it is our right as Americans to practice whatever spirituality we see fit. And these entheogens are a big part of our spiritual history as humanity, and some even say before then, as early hominids and even apes, if you've heard of the stoned ape theory. So that's what we're doing. Does anybody have any questions about entheogens? Peace, just peace.
Where can I get some?
We're working on that. We are working on that. But yeah, so we're organizing here in Georgia. We're part of the national movement. Is anybody familiar with Decriminalize Nature? We decriminalized all entheogens in Oakland, Colorado, Oregon, the entire state of Michigan. We are the catalyst movement, changing the paradigm, and we're having a lot of success because of our platform. So, hey, I know you. You're part of this. Come here. We met at Okay. All right. Back to the real shit. It's stuck in there.
Yeah, so for those who missed my talk earlier, my name is Greg Lake. I'm an entheogenic church attorney. I help people form religious organizations that are, let's see.
Where's the a little low? Here, try this.
Can you hear me better on that one?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, is that stuck?
It's stuck in there.
Okay. All right, well, yeah, my name's Greg Lake. I'm a entheogenic church attorney, meaning that I help people enshrine their rights under religious freedom laws to consume entheogens sacramentally. So yeah, and I'm very involved with Decriminalize Nature on national and local levels. Matter of fact, I met her at Canadelic conference that was in Miami. When was that? Like mid-March? Yeah, so it's just a vast network of people across the country who oh, okay. So yeah, it's just a vast network of people across the country, both in decriminalized movements and then like where I work with people who engage in the religious use of entheogens. It's a vast network. And the way that I kind of see this movement progressing, if we define the end goal as overall legalization of what we would call psychedelics or entheogens, I see it kind of advancing along like three prongs. For one is the Decriminalize Nature movement, which has had a lot of successes in some pretty big cities and municipalities across the country, and actually have some statewide measures up, I think in Michigan and where else? There was one more, I thought, in Oregon, yeah. So anyways, I see it advancing along three different paths. One is going to be, again, the Decriminalize Nature movement, which is local, state, and and ultimately federal. Two, the entheogenic church. Can y'all hear me now? Okay. Yeah. So the entheogenic church route, which is obviously what I do, which is growing more and more every day. People are having religious, mystical experiences, engaging with these sacraments, and yeah, and then eventually come after some soul searching to the point where they want to start a group and build community around these types of practices. So that's what I help them do. But I really see that also having a very broad effect in the sense that people who come to these ceremonies and come and participate with these different organizations, they then go out into the community and spread that love and energy throughout. And so that has a ripple incidental effect all throughout society. And then finally, the one that we're probably a lot most familiar with is, the medical route, including the FDA trials on psilocybin. I think phase 3 with MDMA are occurring. And so there's also the medical route. So I see all three of those fronts kind of converging together, ultimately to lead again to our end goal of full legalization of psychedelics or entheogens.
Yeah, so, hello. Yeah, so I really wanted to break down why we are decriminalizing and not legalizing, kind of to play off of what you were saying. And there's a big reason, right? So decriminalization makes it so that there's equitable access to these sacred plant medicines. Those of you that know about the ketamine reform, we legalized ketamine here in Georgia, and it's amazing, and it is helping so many people. But it's not equitable because we have to pay our researchers, we have to pay our physicians, and as much as that is such a big part of the therapeutic realm, there are a lot of people that don't have access to those kinds of therapies. And so we want to advocate for those people too, because there are people from all walks of life that need this medicine, that have benefited from this medicine. And so the reason that we're decriminalizing is so that I can give you 5 grams of mushrooms for free, and you can have that $10,000 experience in your living room, And so this is what our ancestors were doing. And I don't know why we stopped doing it, but we just want to make sure that the paradigm, the narrative is accurate, and that people understand what entheogens are, and that they can use it without fear of incarceration or judgment, or, I'm a parent, I have this career and I have to hide what I'm doing to heal because it's a crime. So that's why we're decriminalizing, because we want everybody and all communities, all of humanity, to have access to these things. Because those of you that have tried them know what that is, and it's an extremely edifying experience. I've not heard of anyone who has played with these entheogens, who has taken some mushrooms with their friends, that didn't come out on the other end feeling like it changed them in some way, or that they had some mystical experience, a divine interaction with themselves and the universe, So that's what we're doing, and we hope that you guys can support us. Those of you that are local here in Georgia, please scan our QR code. Give me your email on the second link in our link tree. Give me your phone number. I am sending out newsletters. I am sending out mass text messages. We're actively organizing and talking to city council members. We're trying to move pretty quickly with this, and people are really receptive across the nation, and that's why we've had so much success as a national movement. When you bring it down to the spiritual level, you would know, and I want to hear what you think about this too, but it's unconstitutional for us to not have the freedom of whatever spiritual practice we want to have. So, please, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about the constitutionality of, preventing people from exploring the spiritual religious practice with sacramental consumption of entheogens. So as we know, beyond the reforms that Native Americans have already won in favor of their ritualistic use of peyote, in 1993, there was a U.S. Supreme Court decision called the Smith decision. And basically what the Smith decision said is that if there is a law of general applicability, for instance, the Controlled Substances Act, that incidentally burdened religion, but it applied generally and equally to everybody, that was a constitutional scheme. So 2 years later, in 1993, Congress responded by enacting the Religious Freedom and Restoration Act, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is one of the largest bipartisan support that's ever had, through Congress. So post that, and mind you, in 1997, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that this statute didn't apply to the states. So in response, 23 states to date have passed their own version of the RFRA legislation. I will say it's my belief in Georgia article or paragraph 4 of the state constitution, because to the best of my knowledge, Georgia hasn't passed the Religious Freedom and Restoration Act. But if you look at paragraph 4 of the Constitution, it basically upholds any kind of acts that aren't licentious, which is a kind of a vague, out-of-date term. But then it also says anything that's not against the peace and safety of the state. So along that line, New Hampshire actually has a very similar constitutional provision in their state constitution. And there was a mushroom case that came up in 2019 to the New Hampshire Supreme Court, where the trial court had basically convicted this guy for possessing mushrooms. Granted, now it was found with other religious items in a safe, and so he made a religious use defense. Trial court didn't want to hear it, but when it came to the New Hampshire Supreme Court, again with constitutional language extremely similar to what's in Georgia, the New Hampshire Supreme Court said that their constitution required the exact same analysis as the Federal Religious Freedom and Restoration Act, and kicked it back. And now I will say, in making that decision, they borrowed from the Massachusetts Supreme Court. So what does this say is that a lot of times state Supreme Courts will adopt reasoning and opinions from other state Supreme Courts, not all the time, based upon similar or substantially similar constitutional language. So just throw that out there. But anyway, so the Federal Religious Freedom and Restoration Act was passed in 1993. 1997, they declared that it wouldn't apply to the states. And then in 2006, there was a ayahuasca church called the Unio do Vegetal, and I apologize if I butchered that. But anyways, this religious group, and mind you that this church specifically had ties back to Brazil, to a mother church. And just so you know, this religion is a syncretic religion. It's a mix of ancient shamanic practices with Christianity. So it's what we call a syncretic religion. But anyways, went to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court upheld that, them being sincere religious practitioners was never controverted. But on when we talk about a compelling governmental interest, we talk about safety and we talk about diversion. And at that time, the U.S. Supreme Court found that the safety data on ayahuasca was about 50-50, so the government couldn't meet its burden with regards to a safety argument, and I guess basically upheld the sacramental consumption of ayahuasca in 2006 under the Federal Religious Freedom and Restoration Act. 2009, the U.S. District Court in Oregon also came to the same conclusion and same holding in a case involving the Santo Daime, which is yet another Christian syncretic religion from Brazil. So yeah, so that's kind of what we have so far. In addition to the New Hampshire Supreme Court case, that there's a move even from the highest court back to protecting religious practices, particularly ones that violate the Controlled Substances Act. So that's where we're at. There's some current litigation. Again, most of the litigation today involves around ayahuasca. So there's 2 other ayahuasca cases going, and there's probably going to be several more filed in the near future because of the seizures that are happening at the border. But yeah, so everything's coming around. It seems like the overall movement in the research and medical data is also helping courts inform and shape their decisions as we move forward, because obviously, again, like I said, safety is an issue in these things. But the FDA trials and all the other clinical evidence points that indeed these things are not nearly as harmful as what once was thought. And so, yeah, we're seeing a move, I believe, even in the court systems in regards to religious practice, again, starting to solidify the fact that, people use these sacramentally, which, mind you, is in accordance with the great weight of both the archaeological and anthropological evidence worldwide, showing that these practices were engaged in every major area of the world in antiquity, and led one commentator, Dr. Michael Winkelman out of Arizona State, to conclude that, especially as it relates to the sacramental consumption of sacred mushrooms, it's our shared world religious heritage. So, you know, when we talk about defining religion, obviously these facts are very, very, very important to help define for the court, you know, exactly what these religions are, and also respecting that the fact that they're ancient. But yeah, so again, thank y'all. I'm going to hand it back over to her, and yeah. One more thing I want to talk about real quick was equity of access. Yeah, so one of the main reasons why I get up every day and help support these churches is because, you know, as compared to what these legalized treatments are going to be, like it's probably a 20th or 50th of the cost, right? Many people have scholarships available for people to come sit in ceremony who might not be able to make the full energy exchange. And also cater very much to veterans and first responders. I've done a lot of volunteer work helping form organizations that support those demographics, you know, getting to engage with these sacred medicines. And so, yeah, so really the church works good. The church model in a way kind of backs up y'all's assertion that left alone, and the government stay out of it, will create more equitable access for people, and I couldn't agree more. As we see these FDA trials progress and these other corporations jumping in, you just have to know that the treatments, whenever they are legalized, are going to be astronomical, right? So anything we can do to support, you know, equitable access through other means, such as decriminalization, you know, and support these churches would be very much appreciated, and is really going to help some of the people who actually need it the most. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for breaking that down. We need more people like you. But so ways that you can help, right? How do you, as a single person, change the world, right? We've all thought about that. And we can't, as single people, change things. But we can collectively come together as a community and come out of the woodwork, like all of you guys came from your homes to come here and talk about mushrooms and be with your people. And so I ask and I urge you guys to feel comfortable talking about entheogens. It needs to be destigmatized, and people need to be educated. If you have family members that don't understand, or friends or whatever, start sharing your story. Start talking to people about how these things are edifying and how they are helping you. And share your stories in the community. Don't be afraid to come out and start having this conversation, because we're doing it in Georgia and we're going to do it in a big way. And we want numbers, and we want people in the streets. And, you know, election season is coming up, y'all, in November. So if politicians and, you know, people in leadership positions are starting to see that there are a lot of Georgia residents out in the streets, thousands of Georgia residents have signed our petition in that QR code and are coming out to these meetings, and they are, you know, seeing us banded together, then we're all votes too. So that's leverage, and making sure that these people who are in higher up positions from different backgrounds know that Georgia residents are interested in decriminalizing entheogens. That goes a long, long way. So please scan our QR code. It's that banner right there waving in the wind. If you can find it and grab it and scan that QR code, or scan one of my Decriminalize Nature people's shirts, or like my shirt, go on our website, put in your email. It's the first thing you'll see on the website. In the link tree, it's the second link. Give me your email or your number or both, and stay up to date with what we're doing and our events. And please, please, please come out for our event June 4th. It's an open panel discussion. We're going to have a physician, a local shaman, a neuroscientist, and other people in the community. And we're really going to have an open discussion about what entheogens are, why we think they need to be decriminalized, and then we're going to dive in deep to what our plans are for Georgia. And we want to hear your voices. We don't want to make these decisions by ourselves. Together we are stronger. My brain can do so much, but when it's my brain and your brain and your brain and your brain, you know, we can do a lot more. So please come out, please be a part of this. And if you have any questions, I'll be here. I'll be raging with y'all all night. You know, find the Decrim shirts. We love you guys. We couldn't do this without our community, and so I'm just so grateful for all of you, and I love you so much.
We love you!
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry.